The defense saves the day yet again as the Kansas City Chiefs are now 3-0 on the young season. Today we'll recap Sunday night's action and discuss what the Kansas City Chiefs need to do moving forward. Now with that, let's get the chit chat and let's have some fun. Sunday Night Football lived up to the billing yet again, or we can say a Kansas City Chiefs football game lived up to the hype as it came down to the wire, and yes, the ref decided it. And that's for all the people that didn't really watch the game and see everything that unfolded. It was a crazy game. Yes, there was penalties on both sides and there was missed calls on both sides, but the Kansas City Chiefs secured another W against the Atlanta Falcons by a final score of 22-17. But before we recap all of that and dive into everything that was untold and crazy throughout that game, we have some breaking news to discuss as the Kansas City Chiefs have signed Kareem Hunt to the active roster. Now, this was much more earlier than anticipated. I thought they would do it later this week and then he would be ready to go against the Chargers this Sunday. But nonetheless, he will be a part of the 53-man roster. And if I had to speculate, predict, I believe now Keontae Ingram will be released and then back onto the practice squad. It's going to be interesting to see what this running back room will be full until moving forward, because now you're going to have Carson Steele, Kareem Hunt, and Samaje Perine, and you best believe all three of them are going to be touching the ball. Now, let's swipe that forward and let's get back into the Sunday Night Football action as the Kansas City Chiefs are now 3-0. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows, because this yet again was another ugly performance, at least on the offensive side of the ball. And that's going to be my key focus today. And let's start it off with the main man in charge, the GOAT himself, and Patrick Mahomes, because he hasn't looked like the quarterback we have all known to come and love. He has been known to start seasons off slow, particularly in the last couple of years. And who knows what the reason may be, but we're going to take a deeper dive right now because the turnover ratio has been huge. Mahomes has 4 interceptions on the season, and honestly, I don't think he has no one to blame but himself. I think one was a legit interception, and it was last week when Cam Taylor-Britt made a phenomenal pick. I got to give him credit there. But all the other ones, it just seems like Mahomes threw a lazy throw or he just wasn't aware a defender was there. Now, why is that the case? Because Mahomes just did not become a turnover machine overnight. He just did not become a bad quarterback, because he is not. There is something going on. And my main focus is the offensive line. If you rewind back to a couple years ago when the Chiefs O-line was decimated and you could tell Patrick Mahomes didn't trust in that line, he looks kind of the same. He has those happy feet again where he does not know what's going to go on that left side, whether it's Wanye Morris or whether it's Kingsley Samatea. There's just no trust there. And that's going to take some time, even if they are blocking their ass off. He does not have full trust, which will force throws, which will force decisions, and which makes all of us in Chiefs Kingdom very uncomfortable because it's something we're not used to seeing. Now, Coach Reed did mention Wanye Morris did a fine enough job to where he will be starter next week against the Chargers. I really don't have much to highlight from Morris, which is a good thing. If they're not going to call out the left tackle much or call out a lineman's name, that means you are doing something right. I did notice he may have allowed 1 sack. I did see a sack come from the left side, but I don't know if that was credited to him. But solid job. But doesn't mean that solves all the issues, because it's a week in and week out thing. And next week, he'll be either going against Khalil Mack, or if Joey Bosa is healthy, those will be 2 ferocious defensive ends after him, and it'll be a tall tale to go. So his job just got a lot much harder. And then point number 2 I want to highlight, which I don't think a lot of people are really zoning in on, was the key acquisition of Hollywood Brown in the offseason. If you go back to minicamp, training camp, and even the first preseason game, where it was very limited, but it was telling, I really believe Hollywood Brown was the guy that Patrick Mahomes wanted to depend on as wide receiver number 1. I really believe even ahead of Rashee Rice. That may be a hot take, it may be crazy, but just look how the year has started, where the offense just seemed at disarray. And I feel like Hollywood Brown was a huge asset and a huge portion of the Kansas City Chiefs playbook. And then when he gets hurt, it's like, okay, what do we do from here? And I think that's what's really happening here. And why I mentioned preseason game number 1, because that was Patrick Mahomes' first pass to Hollywood Brown. Now, did he just want to get him a catch and maybe get him comfortable? That could be the case. But it could be a telling story to say, hey, I really like what I see in this dude and I'm comfortable with him and he is my go-to target. That could be something else as well. So he has a line he may not trust in on the left side and he lost a key weapon that he's been training with for a good 2 to 3 months. Those are things that could frustrate Mahomes to now you got to adjust, get players accommodated, and then move forward. And that's why it's good to see guys like Rashee Rice stepping in huge in year number 2. He has become a top 10 wide receiver, and best believe probably by November, he may be a top 5 wide receiver. He is a lethal weapon, and I love to see it. He is making plays at the line of scrimmage and downfield. He has become a complete threat. Yet again over 100 yards, yet again 10 plus catches. You guys looked at me crazy when I said he is Mahomes' go-to target ahead of Travis Kelce. Now it's not so crazy. The offense, at least the passing offense, now revolves around Rashee Rice, and anything else is complimentary, and yes, that includes Travis Kelce. And I'm not going to go into full detail today. Is Travis Kelce wash? Yada, yada, yada. I might do a short later on, but in this video, we are not focusing on that. Now let's transition on to the running game, because the Kansas City Chiefs took an interesting approach that I did not anticipate coming into Sunday night. And it was that it was announced Carson Steele was going to be the main back. And that was so. But early on, Samaje Perine got a lot of carries. And that surprised me because to start the first half, it was literally a 50-50 load. And I was like, okay, I like it, but also I wanted to see Carson Steele be the main bell cow. And then that's what we saw in the second half. And that's what we saw in the fourth quarter. And I'm like, yes, Carson Steele can be that guy moving forward. And I was excited to see what he was all about. He had over 16 carries for over 70 yards. If he would have had 20 carries, he may have got close to 100 yards. Not saying he would eclipse it, but I just want to see him get the ball more and more. Now, is that likely? I don't know. As I mentioned to start the video, the Chiefs elevated Kareem Hunt. What does that mean? I don't know. The Kansas City Chiefs running back room is literally a toss-up up in the air because I would never have predicted Samaje Perine to get that many carries. I thought when Samaje Perine was going to be involved, it was going to be a third down back and it was going to be in the receiving game. But no, the Kansas City Chiefs ran him. So what the Chiefs do from here is literally anyone's guess. If I had to predict, I think the Kansas City Chiefs go into next week against the Chargers and start with Steele and run heavy because Steele did prove himself against the Atlanta Falcons. Then Perine will come in and out. I think will be the same rotation. And then Hunt, he may get 3 to 5 carries to get his feet wet and see what he's all about. And I wouldn't be surprised. And it's nothing against Steele and it's nothing against Perine. But I really believe Coach Reed wants to get Kareem Hunt involved. And by the time Isaiah Pacheco is going to come back, I can see Kareem Hunt leading this team in carries at that point. It may be shocking, but I wouldn't be surprised by that outcome. And let's go on to the sole reason why the Kansas City Chiefs won this game yet again, and it is because the defense. And this team has become a defensive team in the last 2 years. Crazy to say that a Kansas City Chiefs team is led by the defense when you got Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback. But here we are, and they dominated basically for 3.5 quarters. And yes, I say 3.5 quarters because for whatever reason, those boys do not know how to start a game. Offenses start early and either put up a field goal or a touchdown, then the team has to readjust. And once they readjust, there's no getting past them. And that's a beautiful sight. And that's my only key remark is I wish they would start fast. Get it going, get a turnover early, and then bring the hype over to the offense. That way the offense feels energized, ready to go, and then the offense starts fast. It seems like this team tends to start slow week in and week out. That's something that needs to be adjusted. But other than that, I can't really complain what I've been seeing from this defense. They are a bend but don't break type of defense, and they definitely don't break. When it's tooth to nail in the third and fourth quarter, you best believe they're going to play some of their best football. And you're going to highlight guys. The linebacking room showed up. I think Spags played those boys perfectly. A lot of them weren't in coverage. Tramari Connors played another great game. Felix Anudike-Uzama got his first sack. If it was a sack, it was a pressure. He forced a fumble. It was a beautiful sight to thing. And then I want to highlight the main reason why the Kansas City Chiefs won the game, and it was because of Nick Bolton. and we criticize him, specifically me, because he has not looked good in my eyes to start the year. But the reason he looked really well, phenomenal in week 3, was because Spags played him to his strength. He wasn't out there covering tight ends. He wasn't out there covering wide receivers. No, he was playing his role as the green dot. He was zoning in on the quarterback. He was zoning in on the running backs, and he was making plays in the backfield. That is Nick Bolton's strength. And if you have him stick to that, he is one of the great linebackers in today's game. When you have him covering in the secondary, he looks weak. And then it makes people like me, fans like me, criticize him. And that's not fair to him because he is a good football player. So if Spags just keeps players in the roles, which he is really good at, this defense excels on all cylinders. But on that final play of the game, when he went after Bijan Robinson, ooh, that was such a thing of beauty. But it wasn't just Nick Bolton. He wasn't the only linebacker involved in that play, because if you zone in on Leo Chanel, he's the real reason why Nick Bolton can make that play, because he shoved the left tackle 3 yards in the backfield. Leo Chanel is one of them boys, and I've been saying it since preseason. He may be the Kansas City Chiefs' best linebacker. I'm waiting to see him take full head of steam and explode on the scene once October and November comes around. I'm excited to see this defense, even though they lost some pieces like L'Jarius Sneed in the offseason, haven't really taken a step back. Now, if the offense gets on the same page, this is a very lethal and scary team. I'm not taking for granted that we're 3-0. There's some things we need to correct. There's some things we need to write down, because the season's only going to get harder. And we know how it looks the schedule-wise. They play almost a game every day of the week, it seems like, for the rest of the year. This thing is just begun. So the Kansas City Chiefs will adjust. They will move forward, and they will still be a legit threat. Again, I'm happy to see them 3-0, but man, we can be so much better. And that's actually a positive looking forward. The fact you aren't looking your best, the fact you're probably a C-graded team at the time, and you beat the likes of the Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals, and Atlanta Falcons. Those are all good teams. Don't look at what their records say. Those are all good teams, and they play the Kansas City Chiefs like it's their Super Bowl, just like everyone else will, and the Chiefs still found a way to win. And now next week, you got the Chargers, who are decimated, but best believe it's not going to be anything different. It's going to be a nail-biter, and we're going to be stressing about it. I don't know, Chiefs Kingdom. I'm going to cut this video off. You let me know how you're feeling coming off of Sunday Night Football. We're 3-0. There's some things to correct, but it's not all that bad. With that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you did like this video, please hit that big thumbs up. I'm checking out. Y'all take care. Peace.